Good morning. TB or not TB? That's the question. Imagine Peter Hamlet is an older man, long life smoker, that comes to the hospital because he's having a persistent cough, weight loss, and fatigue. Clinicians suspect tuberculosis, but the laboratory results come back negative. Days turn into weeks, and the symptoms worsen. And finally, the laboratory realizes that it was a non-tuberculous infection was affecting this man. The non-tuberculous bacteria mimics the symptoms of many different pulmonary diseases and often is overlooked and underdiagnosed. It's becoming an important health problem because aging of the population and more people that are under immunosuppression treatment may allow to be infected by this kind of bacteria. The non-tuberculosis species covers around 150 and 200 different species, sharing with the tuberculosis that they are acid-fast positive, so they have to be stained by the Siegel-Nielsen smear in order to visualize. But as a difference of the tuberculosis, that there is a contact-to-contact transmission, those bacteria are present in the environment. They could be present into the soil, so they can produce aerosols or dust that could be inhalated, or it could be even in the water. In the water can live easily, and because they produce also the biofilm, they could be in the plumbing system. So people suspected or susceptible people could be infected because just by the shower or just sharing with people within the hot bath. So be careful with the hot bath, the hot tube, I mean, because sometimes it could be a little bit dangerous. It's a risk behavior. The NTB could be split into two different groups. The lowest growers and the rapidest growers. On the lowest grower, it will take approximately between 3 weeks to 4 weeks or even more in order to grow and to be able to detect on the laboratory and make the corresponding analysis. The most important bacteria affecting this group is the Mycobacterium avium. This Mycobacterium avium affects especially people that are on the weakened immunitary system. That could be because they're having some kind of chronic lung diseases like COPD or problems like bronchiectasis or cystic fibrosis. There are also another type of non-tuberculous bacteria, the rapid growers. The rapid growers will take a little bit lower. Lower means minimum 1 week or 1 week and a half. So this is not like Staphylococcus aureus that you can see almost growing the bacteria into the culture plate. The most important representative of this kind of NTM are the Mycobacterium abscessus. This mycobacterial affects the soft skin, the soft tissues and the skin, and normally is transmitted by contact. So has been very well reported some outbreaks in countries receiving people for cosmetic tourism, like lipotourism in Latin America or in Turkey, or after tattooing sessions in which the Mycobacterium abscessus could appear. It's very important to differentiate and to detect because these bacteria have some kind of intrinsic resistance, and in some cases some multi-drug resistance could be absolutely, Why increase the non-tuberculous bacteria? The reason is because nowadays there are much more number of people that are under this susceptible group. This is because the longer life expectancy, the aging, people are living more and the system is weakened. The larger burden of chronic diseases like diabetes or other diseases that could weaken the immunitary system. The more frequent of use of the immunosuppressive therapies like systemic corticoids, or even for people that receive transplantation, makes that the possibility to get infected by those bacteria that normally will not affect the people is much, much higher. And also the increase of the awareness of this problematic, because the more we look, the more we find. That's very important to be aware that it may happen. You know that there is a classical triad of method for detecting Mycobacterium as a whole. Is the acid-fast smear by the Siegel-Nielsen. That could be the PCR and also the growth. On the smear, something that happened with the NTM is that they look very similar on the microscopic. So they are acid-fast positive, so you will see this typical reddish color. But the growth has the problem of the back sensitivity, because there should be a high bacterial load in order to be able to detect the bacteria. On the PCR, unfortunately, most of the labs are exclusively concentrated on TB. On TB that detected the presence, TB, I mean tuberculosis, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and some resistances. But if the result is negative, so they stop the testing here and nothing happened. And if we have to wait until the growth will take so much time for the non-tuberculosis, if it is the slow growth or the rapid growth. But what happens when you have a positive Siegel-Nielsen but a negative on TB? So then you suspect that it should be a non-tuberculous bacteria. But if you have no easy tools for detecting, you have to go to the growth, and it will take at least 1 week in the case it's an abscessus, or 4 weeks if we are talking about the Mycobacterium avium complex. So it's too much time. But what about if we have a negative smear, a negative PCR on TB tuberculosis, but we have people having symptoms? What to do if people present to the laboratory with some persistent cough? They have some risk factors because they are a long life smoker, or is people that much older, or is under immunosuppressive treatment, or they have even some CT chest signals like bronchiectasis or the cystic fibrosis. So Bircel, our company, we propose an innovative and very clever approach for detecting Mycobacteria as a whole, not only focused always in tuberculosis, because there is something else. There is life apart from tuberculosis. It will be a multiplex PCR in which we can detect the Mycobacterium tuberculosis complex with a dedicated primer. We can detect the Mycobacterium avium complex with a specific primer, and also the Mycobacterium accessus. But very clever, we have to introduce also a target for detecting all the Mycobacterium species, regardless it is tuberculosis, MAC, or abscessus. The big advantage of this assay is that we can test directly sputum. So this is the easiest sample that could be detected in the laboratory. So you just take the sputum, and after that we see, of course, we do the smear, but the smear normally could be negative. But after decontaminating and disinfecting, we can process the sample. This kit needs to be run in a thermocycler with a 5-channel. So everything having 5 channels could be run. And we include also another target for endogenous control. So we can really see which is the cellularity and that the samples have been very well connected. And a very important capability of this assay is that all the reagents are lyophilized. So they can be shipped to your laboratories regardless the condition in the shipment or how long it will take the time for reaching to the end user. This kit has been proven to detect all different species of Mycobacterium. Species that are critical for Mycobacterium tuberculosis, like Mycobacterium microti, caprae, or bovis. The Mycobacterium complex, like avium intracellulare or chimerae, or the abscessus, all the different subtypes. And apart from this, we have also tested all the different possible Mycobacterium non-tuberculosis that could be present in the nature to be sure that our assay is able to pick up it. So we propose a clear and smart and a new algorithm for detecting mycobacteria. So from sputum, we can use this assay to do the first line screening. Because if the result is negative, so there will be absolutely no infection. But if the result is positive, we will have the possibility to see how this positive looks like, because we will have the picture of the CT. In the case of Mycobacterium tuberculosis, we will see that we have three signals. One for the target of tuberculosis, another for the target of the endogenous control, and a third one for the complete genus of Mycobacterium species. So know that this is Mycobacterium. In the case that it was a Mycobacterium avium complex, we will have the three targets, the specific for Mycobacterium avium complex, plus a control, plus the whole species. And similar to abscessus. On abscessus, we will have the target for abscessus, we will have the target for the endogenous control, and the whole. But we have the last possibility. The last possibility is that we only detect this mycobacterial exclusively for the mycobacterial species. It is not tuberculosis, is not MAC, is not abscessus, but it could be something of the more than 150 different species of tuberculosis that we have seen before. So at the first shot, we can really understand that this patient is having a tuberculosis. A tuberculosis infection, Mycobacterium tuberculosis or non-tuberculosis. We know that this patient is positive for tuberculosis, and then we know that we have to isolate, we have to treat the sample in a BCL category. But if the sample is positive for Mycobacteria, excuse me, I forgot that those pictures of these profiles could be analyzed visually by the people, the technician, but also our company has developed a very sophisticated software connected to the CFX 96 on Bio-Rad, and automatically will separate and identify all the rows. Even considering that could be a mixture infection. It could be difficult, but it could be a possibility that could be infection with tuberculosis and other things. But the important thing is when we see that it's positive for NTM, we know which is the relevant species. We can treat the patient because they have, in cases this abscessus, some intrinsic resistance, and the patient is not necessary to be isolated, and we can treat the sample in a normal laboratory conditions without no more. So the main benefits of this assay is that we have innovative algorithm in which we have a complete and faster result with the maximum clinical information and a cost-effective, because we have just pay one single test and we have a lot of information. And support microbiologists, especially in the cases where the smear is negative and the PCR for tuberculosis is negative. So what to do? In that case, it could be a very important tool. Bristol is a company specialized on tuberculosis. We have this kit that could be run on sputum. We have also a kit that could be run on culture for immediate identification of the different species of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. But apart from this, we can offer a wide range of molecular controls. AmpliRun is the whole genome for all the different species of Mycobacterium, and also very interesting for the clinical laboratories. The AmpliRun Total, in that case, is a molecular control that mimics a human sample, including human cells that could be devoted for Mycobacterium tuberculosis, including different resistances. So if your PCR assay is for tuberculosis and detecting some species, this one is one that has been not created for this PCR system. It's just a third party that can control the system is working correctly. How the laboratories work today with the tuberculosis. Most of them has a classical approach, is just a molecular TB only, maybe with the gene spare or maybe the BD-max. In that case, we detect only TB and some resistance. But if it is negative, we can do no anything. So there is no NTM detection, and further test is needed if we see that there are an acid fast positive, but the PCR is negative. There are some laboratories that are aware about of this problem and use PCR that it is able to detect or separate TB from NTM. But this aside, for instance, from the CGene, they detect the NTM only as a whole. So if it is positive for NTM, you need to do further request of other tests in order to get which is the exact species and to take the correct clinical decision. And finally, there are some labs that after having the culture, they start for looking the NTM. In that case, this is a PCR, but this is not a real-time PCR. They cannot be done for a sputum, so you need to wait until the culture is able to be picked up, and after that, you will have much more information. Of course, you have the species, you have more resistances, but the immediacy of the result is not covered by this assay. So for the TB, or not TB, that's a clinical question. I think Bircel is having the right answer with the Mycobacterium tuberculosis for the right management and the better patient care of this patient. Okay, thank you very much. And if you have some questions, I will be very glad for attending. Wait, I have to...
Hi, are people ever colonized with non-mycobacterium, non-tubercular mycobacteria? And how do the PCR tests distinguish between colonization and infection?
No. Unfortunately, we detect only presence or not presence if this mycobacterial is present. So we have not a specific CT value for differentiating which is a colonization for infection. Of course, you may have, but having this bacterial in enough quantity in the sputum is not normal. It normally is more indication that it could be a real infection. But of course, the patient should be fully investigated and to know if there are some symptoms that could be also compatible on it. There's some question here.
Question. Is it qualitative or quantitative?
No, it's exclusively qualitative.
Okay, thank you.
But we have some amply run controls. If the species that we obtain, or so we find on it, it's also present on the amply run control, that it is a control which is absolutely quantified in the number of copies, we can try to do a kind of a calibration curve. For instance, I don't know, because I have this information by heart, but having a large portfolio of controls that we have that could be quantified, doing a serial dilutions of control for this kind of mycobacteria, we can build a calibration curve and report a number of copies, because we run the calibrators and also the sample at the same time. It will be a possibility to assess more or less which will be the quantity, apart from the CT value that we can provide.
Can you detect mixed infections?
Yes, absolutely. This is the big advantage of having 5 markers. So it could be very easy to find that in one channel we find Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and in another channel we will find also avium or infectious, or maybe some opportunistic infection that for any reason is also present. But of course, we have pictures, but I have no time to show yet, having positive of all of them. So it could be possible. It would be like a five work of detection.
In case of co-infections, the NTM is a high titer and the TB low titers. In some case, you cannot discriminate the co-infection between the TB only infection.
No, but at least you have already detected that something has reacted because there isn't a specific reaction for TB and any other species. So this will not, you will have to continue investigating the sample, maybe to test with a PCR just for TB in order to see or to confirm the reactivity, or to check for the grow and to do the culture, to do antibiogram. So this is just something that can really facilitate the first step to approach the problem.
Good.
It's not working, the mic off?
It's not working, no problem. Well, the sensibility and specificity in other kind of samples. Yeah. Now, the sensibility and the specificity in other samples different than sputum is the same.
No, it has not been proven. So we have obtained the IVDR for sputum that is quite hard and complicated. We know that the kit is working very well on culture. So instead of going to sputum, you can just go to culture and to have exactly the same, because the sample has to be exactly the same, decontaminated and disinfected. And after that, you continue all the process, extraction and so on. We foresee that even in tissues could be work, but the problem is that the IVDR is so strict regulation nowadays that for claiming in the package insert that you are able to detect this kind of sample, you have to prove with an extensive number of samples that with different samples or different species at the same time. So it makes it quite complicated. But our guess, I see that it will work. I think we have ended our time, so thank you very much for attending. And if you need more information, we will be absolutely delighted to attend you in the Virtual booth on the Hall B. Thank you very much for your attention.